What's up, everyone? It's Zach Brazil with the New York Post at the Garden. A raucous crowd saw St. John's beat the number 3 team in the nation, Connecticut, 81-72. Last 4:46, St. John's closed, outscoring UConn 15-7. Zuby Ejiofor was the best player on the floor. He completely dominated the game, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. You know, St. John's really won this game on the glass, 16 second chance points, and by forcing 15 turnovers. It was, you know, if you watched this team in November, December, it was the kind of night you might not have been sure was possible. UConn's really good. This was their first full-strength loss all year. They had won 18 in a row, and St. John's was the better team tonight. St. John's outworked UConn, out-hustled them. Their pressure really wore on the Huskies. And on a night where St. John's only made 5 threes, and they had a bunch of good looks, a lot of in-and-out shots, they still won. I mean, right now, 9 in a row. They're now tied atop the Big East in the loss column with UConn, and now have the head-to-head win. Repeating as Big East champions all of a sudden is on the table. Look, obviously a long way to go. Still 8 league games left. Xavier Monday, they still have to go to UConn. They'll play in Hartford on February 25th. But right now, you know, if you're a St. John's fan, you got to be absolutely thrilled when you consider where this team was on January 3rd at 9-5 after that home loss to Providence. I do want to give a shout out to the St. John's fans. They did an awesome job. I think it was probably maybe 80-20, 75-25. It felt and sounded like a real home game. There was some thought UConn might have 8,000-9,000 people here tonight. It did not. This was not Stores South, as the Husky fans like to call it. This was St. John's home tonight, and their fans were really good. They were engaged. They were loud. I mean, if you're a St. John's fan, this is, you know, kind of one of those nights you're going to remember. You know, you beat the number 3 team in the country. You know, get that win that's going to solidify you, maybe give you a top 4 seed if you really take care of business here the rest of the way. You know, look, just enjoy it. You got Xavier on Monday, but right now, St. John's has to be thrilled with how tonight went, how they played, how they dealt with, you know, UConn runs. You know, they finished, which is really what they didn't do early. You know, when in those losses to Alabama and Kentucky and Auburn, they had second half leads, you know, Iowa State, but they didn't finish. Tonight they finished, and they've been finishing throughout this 9-game win streak. So look, it's one of the biggest regular season games St. John's has played this century, and it absolutely lived up to its billing, and the team more than did its part. They're now 18-5. They're 11-1 in the league, and really they're surging. I will see you guys down the road soon. Have a good night, and enjoy a monster win.